What if I told you that your love story isn't as random as you think? That before you even swiped right, before the butterflies in your stomach, before the first hello, your brain had already made its choice. In fact, right now, whether you're single, dating, or married, your mind has already mapped out who you're drawn to, why you can't stop thinking about them, and maybe why you'll end up with them. Today, we're going to uncover the science, psychology, and subconscious forces that decide your happily ever after, long before you imagine walking into a crowded room. There are dozens, maybe hundreds of faces. Some you glance over without a second thought, others you might politely smile at, but then there's that one face. You can't explain it, something inside you just clicks. Your eyes linger half a second longer, your body leans slightly toward them, and before you've even exchanged a single word, your brain has already started a quiet conversation with itself. This one, pay attention. That's not romance at work yet. That's your subconscious doing its job, scanning, assessing, and making decisions far faster than your conscious mind ever could. We like to think we choose who we're attracted to, that we're in complete control. But here's the truth. By the time you're aware of your feelings, your brain's hidden matchmaker has been busy for milliseconds, running what's basically a high-speed compatibility algorithm. It's looking at micro details, the shape of a smile, the way the eyes crinkle, the subtle rhythm of their gestures. It's not just about beauty. It's about patterns that feel familiar, safe, exciting, or even a little bit dangerous in a way that intrigues you. And these impressions don't form slowly over weeks. They fire off in the blink of an eye. Your brain, especially the limbic system, is tuned to notice these cues without bothering you with the data. It doesn't ask for your permission to decide someone is worth your attention. It just does it. You might think you're casually mingling, but deep down, the decision process has already begun. This is why sometimes you meet someone and feel as if you've known them forever. It's because the moment you laid eyes on them, certain visual and behavioral cues match with a template stored deep in your subconscious, a template built over years of experiences, memories, and even genetic influences. And here's where it gets even more fascinating. That first internal decision, the one your subconscious makes in seconds, can influence every single interaction afterward. You laugh more, you find their stories more engaging, you look for reasons to be around them. Your conscious mind thinks, wow, I'm just so comfortable with this person. But really, your brain has been nudging you along, reinforcing the attraction it already decided on. It's like your mind is playing a quiet game of chess, setting up moves 3 steps ahead before you even realize you're in the match. Science has shown us that in those first moments of seeing someone, our brain is firing signals through the amygdala and the reward centers, deciding if that person fits into our potential partner category. And once they do, everything about them starts to seem better. You notice how they smell, the cadence of their voice, the subtle tilt of their head when they listen. You're not just seeing them, you're filtering every detail through the lens of, I like this. That's why 2 people can look at the same person and one says, oh, they're okay, while the other says, they're incredible. The difference isn't in the person being observed. It's in the brain doing the observing. Now, here's something most people never think about. This hidden matchmaker inside you isn't always logical. It's emotional, instinctive, and sometimes stubborn. You might even meet someone who doesn't seem your type on paper, but your brain has already made a choice and refuses to let go, and it's powerful enough that it can override your own stated preferences. You might swear you're only into certain personalities or looks, but when your subconscious catches something it likes, whether that's a dimple in the right place or a tone of voice that feels like home, it will make the case for them until you give in. What's wild is that this process is happening for everyone all the time. That means right now in your life, there could already be someone your brain has quietly picked out as the one to watch. You might have passed them in the hallway, shared a brief moment at a coffee shop, or even have them in your social circle without fully realizing it. But your mind has stored the data, filed them away, and is just waiting for the right opportunity to bring them into focus again. And that's the thing. By the time you think you're making a choice in love, you're really just catching up to a decision your brain made a long time ago. We talk about chemistry between 2 people like it's some mysterious magic. You meet someone and it's as if a spark jumps between you. You can't stop smiling. Your heart beats faster. The world around you seems to blur, and somehow their presence feels addictive. But here's the thing. This isn't magic. This is chemistry in the most literal sense of the word. It's your brain flooding your body with a cocktail of powerful chemicals the moment you feel a genuine connection. When you see someone who catches your interest, your brain releases dopamine, often called the pleasure chemical. It's the same neurotransmitter that lights up when you achieve a goal or eat your favorite dessert. Dopamine makes you feel good just being around that person. It rewards you for seeking more interaction with them. This is why you find yourself smiling at your phone when they text or replaying their words in your head later that night. Your brain is reinforcing that attraction with a surge of pleasure every time you engage. Then there's oxytocin, sometimes referred to as the bonding hormone. This one is a game changer because it's what makes you feel trust, safety, and closeness. It's released when you hold someone's hand, share eye contact, or hug for more than a few seconds. In those moments, your body is creating a sense of deep connection that isn't based on logic. It's biological. That's why you can't just think your way out of attraction sometimes. Your body has already chemically tied you to them in ways you might not even be aware of. And don't forget serotonin, the chemical that helps regulate your mood and emotions. Early stages of attraction can actually lower serotonin levels, which might sound like a bad thing, but it's exactly what makes you think about them constantly. That little obsession you feel where they pop into your mind in the middle of the day for no reason. That's serotonin being thrown off balance, creating the loop of curiosity and longing that keeps you coming back. All of this is happening in milliseconds without you consciously deciding it. Your brain is scanning their tone of voice, the rhythm of their laughter, even the subtle scent of their skin, and translating that into chemical responses that shape your emotions. That's why attraction can feel so overwhelming. It's not just about liking someone's personality or appearance. It's a full body physiological response. You don't just think they're special. Your entire nervous system is agreeing with you. And what's fascinating is that this chemical reaction doesn't just make you feel good. It changes your behavior. Dopamine makes you more alert and more willing to take risks. Oxytocin makes you more open and trusting. Serotonin changes your focus so that you prioritize them over others. It's like your body is quietly rearranging your priorities without you even noticing. Suddenly, you're willing to drive across town late at night, rearrange your schedule, or spend hours talking without realizing the time passing. That's not just willpower. That's chemistry steering the wheel. Sometimes this rush can even cloud your judgment. You might overlook red flags or idealize them in ways that aren't entirely realistic. That's not weakness, it's biology. Your brain has decided that this person is worth pursuing, and it's feeding you the chemical motivation to make it happen. In evolutionary terms, this makes perfect sense. Strong attraction increases the chances of bonding and reproduction. Nature has wired you to feel this rush because it once served a survival purpose. But the really intriguing part is how personalized this chemical cocktail is. Not everyone triggers it for you. Someone else might be objectively attractive, charming, even funny, but if they don't hit those subconscious triggers that activate your brain's reward system, you won't feel that spark. On the other hand, someone unexpected might set off every signal at once, leaving you wondering why you can't get them out of your head. That's because your brain is responding to a unique combination of cues: facial symmetry, voice tone, body language, scent, that align perfectly with your internal attraction blueprint. When we say your brain has already chosen who you'll marry, this is one of the key reasons why it's not just that you meet someone and logically decide they're a good fit. It's that your brain's chemistry reacts to them in such a powerful way that it sets the stage for everything that follows. You're not just choosing them. You're being pulled toward them by forces you can feel but can't see. And once that chemical spark ignites, it's almost impossible to ignore. Sometimes you meet someone and within minutes you catch yourself thinking, I feel like I've known you forever. It's a strange sensation, almost eerie in how natural it feels. You don't know their full story yet. You haven't shared a lifetime of memories, and yet your guard is down in a way that usually takes years. That's not random. That's your brain responding to familiarity, patterns, tones, expressions, and energies that echo something from your past. From the moment you're born, your brain starts building a mental library of faces, voices, and emotional cues. The way your parents looked at you, the sound of laughter in your home, the posture of people you trusted, these all get stored deep in your subconscious. As you grow, your brain keeps adding to that library, and it quietly shapes your preferences without you realizing it. When you meet someone who happens to resemble those early imprints, not just physically but emotionally, your mind perks up. It says, I know this. This feels safe. This feels like home. It's not always about looks either. Sometimes it's in the micro details, how they tilt their head when they listen, the rhythm of their speech, the way they react to a joke. Maybe it's the warmth in their eyes, the familiar way they use their hands when they talk, or a tone of voice that reminds you of comfort and security. These cues bypass your rational analysis and tap straight into your emotional memory. You're not thinking about why you like them, you're feeling it. Of course, familiarity isn't always positive. For some people, what feels familiar might come from unhealthy dynamics in their past. If chaos or inconsistency was normal in their early relationships, they might feel drawn to partners who create the same emotional roller coaster. Not because it's healthy, but because it's what their brain recognizes. That's the tricky thing about the familiarity factor. Your brain doesn't measure whether a pattern is good for you. It just notices that it's known. It says, I've seen this before. And that recognition creates a pull. This is one of the reasons you can meet someone who seems completely different from your type and still feel deeply attracted. They might not match the physical description you imagine, but something about them mirrors a familiar emotional rhythm. It's as if they speak your brain's native emotional language without either of you realizing it. And when that happens, the bond feels effortless. Conversations flow, silences feel comfortable, and you find yourself leaning in without trying. Familiarity also plays a role in building trust faster. Think about how much easier it is to relax around people who remind you of trusted friends or loved ones. Your body's stress response dials down, your breathing steadies, and your defenses soften. That's because your brain is reading those familiar cues as a signal that you're safe. It's almost like walking into a childhood home. You instinctively know where everything is, even if it's been years. There's another layer to this too. Familiarity can be reinforced over time. The more you interact with someone, the more your brain tags them as part of your safe network, making you feel even more comfortable and attached. This is why repeated exposure often deepens attraction. Even if the spark wasn't overwhelming at first, your brain starts associating that person with feelings of warmth, laughter, and security, eventually convincing you that they're meant for you. It's important to remember that this isn't just about romance, it's about recognition at a primal level. Humans are wired for connection, and our survival historically depended on finding and staying close to our tribe. Recognizing familiar patterns was once a way to ensure safety. In love, it works the same way. We are drawn to what feels like it belongs in our world, what feels like it has always been there, even if it just walked in the door. That's why when someone feels oddly familiar from the very start, it's not just a coincidence. It's your brain telling you you've been here before and you know the way. Long before dating apps, romantic comedies, or candlelit dinners, human attraction was about one thing: survival. Your brain is still carrying that ancient programming, even though your daily life no longer depends on hunting, gathering, or fending off predators. Beneath the surface of every modern love story is a biological script written thousands of years ago, quietly influencing who you notice, who you trust, and who you can't stop thinking about. When you lock eyes with someone across a room, your brain isn't just asking, are they cute? It's scanning for qualities that, from an evolutionary perspective, signal a higher chance of survival and reproduction. This isn't something you consciously think about. It happens automatically. Symmetry in the face, for example, is often read as a sign of good health and strong genetics. A certain posture or the way someone moves can signal vitality and physical capability. Even voice tone plays a role. Lower tones in men can be perceived as strength or protection, while softer tones in women can be perceived as warmth and nurturing. These impressions are subtle, but they're powerful because they tap into the oldest parts of our brain. It's not just about physical traits, though. Your brain is also wired to pick up on behaviors that would have signaled resourcefulness and reliability in a survival setting. Kindness, generosity, and the ability to keep calm under stress all translate to safe to be with on a subconscious level. When someone demonstrates that they can protect, provide, or work cooperatively, your instincts label them as a potential partner. Even before your conscious mind starts building a list of pros and cons, and scent, something we rarely talk about, plays a bigger role than most people realize. Our sense of smell is directly connected to the limbic system, the part of the brain that processes emotion and memory. Without even noticing, you're detecting subtle chemical signals called pheromones that can influence how attracted you feel. This is part of why two people can be equally appealing on paper, but you feel drawn to one and not the other. Your brain is literally reading biological compatibility in ways you can't control. Evolution also explains why certain traits can be universally appealing while others are more situational. In times or places where resources are scarce, traits like physical strength or signs of health become more emphasized. In safer, resource-rich environments, traits that signal cooperation, emotional intelligence, or creativity can take priority. Your brain adjusts its attraction filters based on what it perceives as most valuable for long-term security and success. You're not sitting there making a conscious list. Your biology does the math for you. Even risk-taking can play into this equation. Throughout history, those willing to take calculated risks often had access to better resources or were able to protect their group. Today, that might translate into finding someone more attractive if they're adventurous, ambitious, or confident in unfamiliar situations. It's not necessarily that you need them to fight off a bear for you, but your brain still rewards those signals as if they might. Of course, the modern world is much more complex than the environments this wiring evolved in. We're not choosing partners based solely on who can hunt the biggest game or build the warmest shelter, But those old instincts are still baked into every glance, every moment of gut feeling attraction. That's why someone can look perfect on paper, but leave you feeling flat, while another person you barely know can set your heart racing. One is meeting your conscious checklist, but the other is lighting up the ancient part of your brain that says, this one fits. And here's the twist. These evolutionary cues don't just influence initial attraction, they shape how you behave afterward. When your brain decides someone has high survival value, you become more engaged, more attentive, more willing to invest effort in building a connection. You laugh more easily, you mirror their body language, and you give them the benefit of the doubt. Your actions start aligning with your instincts, reinforcing the bond before you've even decided if you want it. That's the quiet truth about attraction. It isn't just a meeting of minds or a stroke of luck. It's your ancient wiring recognizing something it's been looking for all along. Sometimes, the decision your brain makes about who you're drawn to happens before you even process a single word they say. It's not because you're shallow or because you're judging them unfairly. It's because you are wired to read an astonishing amount of information from the tiniest, quickest signals in a person's face and body. In fact, studies have shown that micro-expressions, those fleeting facial movements lasting less than a second, can reveal genuine emotions that words might hide. You might not consciously register them, but your subconscious does, and it reacts instantly. Maybe it's the subtle lift of an eyebrow that hints at curiosity, the quick flicker of a smile that feels genuine, or the slight crinkle around their eyes when they laugh. Tiny cues that tell your brain, this is someone you can connect with. These signals bypass the thinking part of your mind and go straight to the instinctive part, shaping your impression before you even realize you've formed one. Body language works the same way. The angle of their shoulders when they face you, whether they lean in or keep distance, the openness of their stance, these things silently communicate how comfortable they feel around you, how confident they are, and even how interested they might be. Humans evolved to read these nonverbal messages because they often told us more about a person's intentions than words ever could. If someone's posture signals relaxation and warmth, your brain takes it as a green light. If it's closed off or tense, it can trigger caution before you consciously decide why. Voice plays into this too. You might find yourself drawn to the depth of someone's tone, the rhythm of their speech, or even the pauses they take when they listen. Without meaning to, you're interpreting these sounds as indicators of confidence, emotional stability, or approachability. That's why some voices seem to put you at ease immediately while others leave you feeling unsettled, even if the words themselves are perfectly fine. What's fascinating is that you're constantly sending these same signals to others, whether you're aware of it or not. Attraction is often a silent conversation between two nervous systems. The way you mirror each other's gestures, match each other's energy, or unconsciously sync your breathing, it's your bodies creating a sense of harmony before your minds have fully caught up. This mirroring builds trust and connection faster than deliberate effort ever could, because it's rooted in something primal. And then there are the moments when all of these signals align perfectly. Their expression feels warm, their posture inviting, their voice steady and engaging. You might think, I just feel comfortable around them. But really, your brain is responding to dozens of micro cues that together form a powerful sense of safety and interest. This is why first impressions are so stubborn. Your subconscious takes in this flood of nonverbal information and locks it into place, often influencing how you perceive that person for a long time afterward. Of course, this also means that attraction can happen without conscious intention. You can walk into a room determined to just be friendly and find yourself inexplicably pulled towards someone, laughing more freely around them, holding their gaze a little longer. That's your brain's response to the harmony of these nonverbal signals. It feels right, and so it encourages you to keep engaging. It's worth noting that while words can be rehearsed or carefully chosen, these micro expressions and body language cues are much harder to fake consistently. They tend to reveal what someone is genuinely feeling, which is why your brain gives them so much weight in deciding who to trust and who to avoid. A single flash of authenticity, a real smile, an honest laugh can do more to bond two people than hours of polite conversation. When we say your brain has already chosen who you'll marry, these subtle signals are part of that choice. You might think it's your personality, your shared interests, or your values that start the process, and those things matter deeply. But often the foundation is laid in those first silent moments. Once your brain has decided that someone is worth your attention, something remarkable happens. It begins quietly shaping your actions to make that connection more likely. You might not even realize it, but from that first spark onward, your thoughts, behaviors, and choices are subtly influenced by a self-fulfilling prophecy of attraction. It's as if your mind has placed a quiet bet on this person, and now it's doing everything it can to make sure you win. Think about those times when you find yourself acting just a little different around someone you're drawn to. You stand a bit taller, you smile more, you lean in without thinking. You choose words that you hope will land well, laugh more freely, and listen with more focus. None of this is calculated in the moment. It's your brain working behind the scenes, nudging you to behave in ways that build connection. It's not deception, it's amplification. Your best traits come forward because your brain has decided this person matters. The more you interact, the more these behaviors reinforce the bond. When your brain senses even small signs of mutual interest, a returned smile, a lingering glance, a shared laugh, it rewards you with another burst of good chemicals. That dopamine and oxytocin feedback loop kicks in again, making you associate them with happiness and comfort. Now, you're not just attracted to them, you're emotionally investing, whether you've admitted it to yourself or not. Over time, this creates momentum. You find excuses to see them again. You start remembering little details about what they like, what they've said, where they've been. You make small adjustments, choosing to sit closer, sending that text you wouldn't normally send, bringing up topics you know they care about. These actions might feel spontaneous, but they're really the result of your brain's early decision continuing to influence you. It's as though your subconscious is laying a trail for the relationship to follow, one choice at a time. This process can even change the way you interpret events. If your brain has already chosen someone, you're more likely to see their actions in a positive light. They're late. You assume they must have a good reason. They disagree with you. You find it stimulating instead of irritating. This bias works in their favor because your mind is invested in confirming that it made the right choice. It's not that you ignore reality, you just filter it through a lens of attraction and potential. And the fascinating part is this works both ways. When you're genuinely interested in someone and treat them with more warmth, attention, and positivity, they're more likely to respond in kind. Humans tend to mirror the emotional tone they're given, so your brain's early choice can set off a cycle of mutual reinforcement. You show more interest, they feel more valued, they respond with more interest, and the bond deepens. What started as an unconscious attraction becomes a tangible connection that feels natural and inevitable. Sometimes this process begins so early that by the time you consciously acknowledge your feelings, the groundwork is already complete. You might tell yourself you're just friends or keeping it casual, but your brain has been busy creating a space for them in your life, in your routines, even in your long-term thinking. You picture future scenarios with them without trying, and suddenly they're part of the story you tell yourself about where your life is going. It's why love can feel like fate. In reality, it's a combination of biology, psychology, and subtle behavioral shifts stacking up until the outcome feels destined. Your brain isn't sitting back, waiting to see what happens. It's actively participating, setting the stage for the future it already prefers. And once it's done all that, it's only a matter of time before you feel like you're simply following a path that was already written. When you really step back and look at it, the idea that your brain has already chosen who you'll marry stops sounding like some mystical, far-fetched notion and starts looking like the natural outcome of everything we've talked about. From that first subconscious scan of a face, to the surge of chemistry in your body, to the pull of familiarity, to the ancient survival instincts, to the silent language of micro-expressions, and finally to the quiet behavioral shifts that turn a spark into a story. Your brain is working ahead of you every step of the way. It's a reminder that love isn't just something that happens to you in a random twist of fate. It's the product of billions of years of evolution, split-second psychological processes, and the intricate way your mind and body respond to another human being. We like to believe we're making all the choices, but so often we're simply catching up to decisions our brains made long before we were aware of them. And maybe that's the beauty of it. Love isn't just about logic, and it isn't entirely about luck. It's this mysterious, fascinating dance between who we think we are, who we've been shaped to be, and the person who happens to trigger every switch we didn't even know we had. So if right now there's someone you can't stop thinking about, someone whose presence feels effortless and inevitable, it's not an accident. It's your brain telling you in its own quiet but undeniable way, I've already chosen